Well, hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Theological Arsonist. It has been some time since I have done an episode of the Theological Arsonist. It's kind of disappeared, and maybe some of you were wondering where it has been. Well, I'm happy to tell you that it is back, and it is back better than ever. I took a little break from making episodes of the Theological Arsonist to kind of rethink the podcast, the structure, the way I want it to go in the future, and to make some plans for the future. And so primarily what today is about is just kind of laying out the groundwork for 2023, where we're going with this podcast, what we're going to accomplish this year, and just give you kind of a little bit of an update in general about the ministry and Mere Catholicity. But before I do, if you are a first-time listener or watcher, I am your host, Jonah Saller. I run a ministry called Mere Catholicity, which is dedicated to building ecumenism within Christ's one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. In addition to that, I have this podcast, Theological Arsonist, which was started way back in 2020 as just a means to have dialogue with other Christians about their faith, about theology, and hopefully through it edify the body of Christ so that we together can grow up and into the faith once for all handed and delivered to the saints. So getting into the podcast, I do want to just apologize that this has taken such a long time for me to do. I know that you guys were pretty used to having at least 2 episodes per month, one every other week, and then it kind of just disappeared and went to just 3 videos per week of me sitting in front of a camera talking. I know you guys don't mind that. I at least hope you guys enjoy the content I put out where it's just me chatting in front of a camera, but I know that having guests on and being able to dialogue and have discussions about theology is very helpful. And it's helpful for me too. I've missed it. I've really enjoyed talking with the various people I've had, going all the way back to 2020. I think it was the beginning of 2020 that I started this channel, maybe the end of 2019. I forget exactly when. But I started this podcast in 2020 when I was kind of a Reformed-ish Baptist. And here I am now, a high church Anglo-Catholic. And so there's a lot that's taken place since the beginning of this podcast and where I am now. But I've had some amazing guests between then and now. I've had people like Andrew Davis. Many of you know I've had him on multiple times. I've had awesome up-and-coming scholars like Joshua Janier on. I've had people like Sam Frost, Bruce Gore, Brett Sockold, more recently Eric Ibarra, and I've enjoyed all of those interactions tremendously. And so as I've thought about where this podcast is going to go in 2023, one of the things that I really want to try to do and really try to bring to you guys is podcasts every single week. I'd like to start publishing a podcast once a week on Saturdays, same schedule as I had before where there'd be a Saturday podcast, but instead of every other week, you're going to have one every single week. And ideally, if I can swing it, I would like those podcasts to be every week with a guest, not simply me in front of a camera. You get enough of that throughout the week. And so if I can do that, then that'll be 4 podcasts every single month, roughly speaking. Most of the time there's about four Saturdays in a month, but roughly speaking, 4 podcasts a month with a guest each and every podcast. Now, I'm doing that for multiple reasons. 1, I love having conversations with people. Discussing theology is awesome. Number 2, you guys who support this channel and the work that I do and the podcast, man, I couldn't do it without you. And I know that being able to listen to people from various traditions have dialogues about important doctrinal subjects is a big deal. And so I want to edify you guys and give you a reason to continue to come back to my channel and listen. And so that is another thing that I'm going to be trying to do in 2023. And then 3, I'm trying to grow this channel. This is what I'm aiming towards, being a more full-time position. As you guys know, I'm here in Arizona. I'm helping to plant a church right now in Arizona. And because of that, this right now is what I'm doing for work primarily. And so I really would love this to grow so that I can continue to work with this church plant and also work here and not have to go out and get another job, because then I'd have to cut way back on content. And I really don't want to have to do that. I see a lot of potential in the movement of Mere Catholicity and Theological Arsonist and what I'm trying to accomplish with them. I see a lot of people that are interested in this kind of thing, people that are exploring different, more Catholic traditions. I think there's a major movement within Protestant Christianity right now, and specifically in the evangelical community, of people who are just fed up with this low church, lackadaisical, party on, concert vibe, motivational speaking type church. And they're going, there's got to be more to my faith than this. There's got to be something deeper. And so they're starting to branch out and look out, and some of them are ending into more Reformed tradition, and that's where I got my toes wet. And a lot of them are diving into more confessional classical Protestantism, which is wonderful. And some are going to Rome and to Orthodoxy, which is also wonderful. And in that, there's this curiosity. There's this curiosity for ecumenical dialogue. And so I really want to be able to focus really my life on this kind of thing. I have felt a calling on my life, and I'm going to be vulnerable here for a moment. I'm not usually this candid, but I'd like to be candid on this podcast as best as I can. But I have felt a calling on my life ever since I was little to be able to help fix things that are broken, fix broken situations, fix broken people. And I know I'm one man. I can't do everything. And I certainly cannot fix the schisms within the church single-handedly. But you better believe that I'm going to try my very best to do whatever I can to heal the divisions within the body of Christ, and do whatever I can in my power and my ability to facilitate the conversations that can help bridge some of those gaps. I am not the most intelligent philosopher or theologian or scholar in any sense. I read a lot of books. I like studying theology. I'm pursuing ordained ministry within the Anglican Church. But in the end, it's not about how much I know. It's about the fact that I want to see conversations happen. And I want to see conversations between different traditions happen. And I don't want to be a sectarian, tribalistic Christian that stays within my own little niche with my own little people group and puts just these walls up that disables these kinds of conversations. And so that's why I really admire people like Eric Ibarra and Brett Sockold, who I've interviewed before, is both of these men are Roman Catholics. They're committed to the claims of Rome. They're committed to what Rome has promoted, which is that they are the one true church that holds the fullness of the truth. And yet within that, there is this desire to extend the olive branch out to other Christians who call upon the name of Christ and to try to seek and find common ground. And yes, they're trying to draw people into the fullness of truth, but isn't that what we're all doing? Do we not all have our understanding of what we believe is the God-breathed divine revelation of truth? And are we not all desiring people to come into that? But even if that's our desire and our goal, the goal should be to do that with a recognition and a brotherly love to others who hold to the Orthodox Nicene Christianity. And so that has been a calling on my life. I feel it deep within who I am as a person. And it's allowed me to start Mere Catholicity and to make videos where I engage these things. And, sometimes I'll make a video and somebody will comment and they'll say, like, Jonah, you got this one wrong, buddy. You don't seem to have studied this issue very deeply. And I'll look into a little bit more and I'll stand corrected, and I hopefully will change and improve as time goes on. But there's other things that I have firm stances on that I believe are true that I will not compromise. And some people might not like that. But within all of that, I am seeking to do all of these things within an ecumenical framework. And I don't see a lot of other channels taking this kind of ecumenical approach, especially from a Protestant or Anglican perspective. And so all this to say, I want my channel to be bigger, to be better, to be more intentionally focused on trying to provide this kind of content to all the people I know that are out there that are like me, that are looking into these different traditions and trying to see where is the truth and how do we orient ourselves towards the truth and how do we love our brothers and sisters in Christ in Rome and in Orthodoxy and Presbyterians and Baptists. while also maintaining some truth without reducing Christianity to relativism. And so I hope that my videos will help facilitate that. I hope that this podcast will help facilitate that. And I'm going to do my very best to produce the best content that you've seen from this channel going forward in 2023. And I'm going to do that primarily by trying to have a new guest, talking about some issue in theology every single week. Now, putting together a podcast is a lot of work. Putting together a schedule to get guests on every week is a lot of work. And so because of that, the 3 videos that you guys are used to seeing each and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I believe is the schedule right now. So those 3 videos a week, I'm going to bump that down to 2 videos per week in addition to the podcast. So there'll still be 3 things during the week, but only 2 videos outside of the podcast. And my goal too is to try to update the way in which I do some of these videos. So for example, a lot of the time I'll just kind of sit here in front of the camera like I'm doing right now, and we'll have a conversation, and I'll talk about something that I'm learning in theology. And those are fun, those are good, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to do those anymore. But I want to put more time and energy into making higher level content that is a bit more informative and objective, I guess you could say. Maybe that's not the exact wording that I want, but it works for now. Something a little bit more objective, because a lot of the time I'm kind of shooting off the hip. I like doing that. I like just kind of, I treat this channel in a very real sense, kind of like a diary, kind of like a thought process machine, where I'll be going through something and I'll be thinking deeply about it, and I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to make a video on YouTube about this because this is really important, and I need to talk about it in order to get my thoughts out. And that's good, and that's fine, and I know you guys have enjoyed those videos where I'm just talking very passionately and candidly about the things that I think. But I also think there's value in being a little bit more collected and a little bit more precise. And so I want to try to do that a bit more, to create videos on this channel with those 2 videos a week, which will be less, so it'll be less for me to do. I want to try to make those videos better than the ones that I have been posting. So more concise, more objective, more precise in what I'm saying, and more planned out, maybe scripted out in a sense. So I'd like to talk about things and then pull quotes from the church fathers to back up what I'm saying and paste them up on the screen so that you guys can read it along with me. I'd like to start series of where maybe I'm going through the 39 articles one by one and explaining them as understood by a more high church Anglo-Catholic perspective. I'd like to add a little bit more cinematography into my videos. So, cool camera angles that you haven't seen before, cool lighting. This is the new lighting that I'm going to be using. I used to have a light here and a light here, so it was kind of a big, bright room, but I'm trying something new. I kind of like a little bit of the darker tones, and so I have lighting just on one side right now, which is kind of casting shadows in a cool way. So I'm going to play with more stuff like that. I'm going to film in other places than just my office. Maybe I'll take you out in my car and we'll drive and we'll talk, or maybe I'll go for a hike in the desert and show some footage of me hiking along the way and have a chat there. Maybe I'll do some poetry reading. For many who don't know, I write poetry and I'm working to get some of it published. So maybe I'll read some poetry. Maybe I'll talk about poetry. Maybe I'll talk about music and my music writing process and show you behind the scenes how I write songs and the theology of music that I use in the writing process. Maybe I'll take you through a day in the life and show you what I do each day, my morning routine, my work schedule. So you guys can have a little bit more of a look into my life and the way that I function and live as a Christian. I just want to be creative. I want to use my imagination. I want to be curious about the world and the way in which the world works, and allow that curiosity to drive my creativity on this channel. I definitely don't want things to get stale. And that being said, I also don't want to change this channel so much that it becomes something that you guys are not used to, and you just lose interest because you go like, this is not what we subscribe for. We're subscribed to you because you're consistent with the particular kind and flavor of content. Everything's going to be the same in terms of the movement, the drive, the thing that I'm aiming and moving towards, the object of the objective. It's going to stay the same. But within that, I think there is room for there to be a wider range of creativity, a wider range of what it means to be a mere Catholic. And I think one of the things that I've neglected on this show, and again, here's some vulnerability for you guys. My whole life has been in the arts. Growing up, I was making music and recording it on a tape recorder. I would take a tape, I'd stick it in the tape recorder, and I would click record, and I would use tapes that my parents would use to record like radio programs and shows and stuff, and I would record over that. I had this little drum, and I would bang on the drum and I would sing. I'd play a rhythm and I'd sing and record over these old tapes of my parents from radio recordings and make my own albums. I would then print out a little album artwork. I'd stick it in a tape and I'd make my own little albums. So ever since I was young, that's like 5, 6, 7 years old. Ever since I was very young, I had this drive to be creative and to be artistic. And so from there, I went into theater. I did theater for many years. And from there, I went into writing and recording and producing music. And I have music and albums out in various genres. I led worship at a church. I was a worship director at a church. As I said before, I write poetry. And here I am, a theologian studying to be an ordained minister in the Anglican Church. And so my whole life has been consumed by artistic expression. And one of the things that I love about artistic expression is, even though I'm sitting here talking intellectually about theology, a lot goes into what I'm doing here that's artistic. I have a camera set up here. I have lights. I have a microphone that's recording the audio separately that I have to link up. There's a creative process within this. And so I think sometimes when we talk about mere Catholicity, we can limit the scope of what it means to be a mere Catholic, as though God only cares about the theology that we talk about, and everything else is kind of this separate thing. Like, there's the time for this, and then there's the time. We compartmentalize God and our faith as though it just is this one particular aspect of our lives, rather than the all-encompassing reality in which everything else finds its being, finds its grounding. And so as I think about like the future of the channel, I want to encourage us all to be mere Catholics together. I really do. That is my vision. That is what I'm moving towards with just vigor and desire. And I want to see everybody flourishing in this idea of mere Catholicity. And yet, I recognize that not every single person who watches my channel is equipped or gifted in the area of theology. Not all of you are born to be theologians. Not all of you are born to be apologists. Not all of you are born to be philosophers. Not all of you are born to sit in front of a camera and talk about theology in the same way that I am, in the same way that other people that you admire here on YouTube are. And yet, that does not mean that you are not a mere Catholic. That does not mean that you can't live as a mere Catholic in your life. And so I want to display the fact that even though this is a very central part of who I am, there's a lot of other areas in my life in which I am living out what it means to be a mere Catholic. I'm living out what it means to be a Christian, fundamentally. And so I want to try to showcase some of those things. And the reason I want to do that here on this channel as well is because if I'm going to bump up my podcast here at the Theological Arsonist to every single week with a new guest, you guys will be getting tons of theological content every single week. And so it might be cool for you to tune in and hear something that is theologically related, but something that might be a little bit different. Like, how do I write a song? What's my process for sitting down and writing a song? And showing you that. Or what does my devotional life look like in the mornings? Like walk us through that. Let's see that. Or, how do you write poetry? What's your thought process behind that? What kind of poetry do you write? And in doing so, I want to encourage others to be vulnerable about the things in their life that they can draw into this mere Catholic mindset. If you're a construction worker, or you are a plumber, or you are a salesman, or you are an engineer, whatever it is that you are, that is an area of life that God has called you to offer to Him as a sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving. And so we need to not look down upon things that we don't necessarily immediately draw a theological connection to. And we need to be able to connect the dots and see how this thing, too, is summed up in Jesus Christ. This thing, too, is a sacrificial act of praise and thanksgiving before the Lord. And so that's really the direction this channel is going to go in 2023. I want to, just to recap, pull it all together. In 2023, Theological Arsonist will start posting a podcast every single week, Lord willing, with a new guest every single week. If not every single week, if for some reason a guest falls through, I'll still do a podcast every week. But Lord willing, a podcast every single week with a new guest every single week. And then 2 videos per week, and those 2 videos are going to be theology related, but some of them will be showcasing other aspects of my life. I'm going to be experimenting with the cameras. I'm going to be experimenting and being creative, trying to draw you guys into my life a little bit more, show you a little bit more how I live. So it's not just a dude talking to a camera, but you're actually seeing Jonah as he is, so to speak. And in addition to that, I can't fail to mention my Locals page. This is huge, guys. This is really, really huge. Locals is a platform that enables me to have a community of mere Catholics. This is not just some sort of scheme to get you guys to give me your money. It's really not. This is a community where we can encourage one another to grow in our faith, to grow in our love of the Lord, and to pursue this mission together. It's not, I don't want to be this guy sitting on the internet going, I'm a mere Catholic, without a bunch of other people that are like, and we are too. There's movements of Christians all around the world that are doing a bunch of amazing things. I think of the Theopolis Institute, for example. I love what Lightheart and Jordan are doing there. And this is very similar. It's very similar what I want to do. I want to build a community of people who are thinking theologically, who are living as Christians in the world, and who are behaving in an ecumenical manner, seeking the fullness of truth and unity in Christ's church. And so this is a place not where you come and you give me your money, but a place where you actually are able to engage with other like-minded believers who are lined together in the same intentional mission, that we might build each other up and encourage each other. You get to post here, you get to ask questions here, you get to have conversations back and forth, vote in polls, hold polls yourself, engage in live streams that I do on there. I post daily devotions on there every single day that usually have something to do with the fullness of the Christian faith and growing up into this movement. Sometimes I'm just pondering different questions and I say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about right now, or this is what I'm reading. What do you guys think? It's a great place. I already have a lot of great people in there, and it's free to join. And so I have a goal set up on the page of 100 people before the end of 2022 is what I had. Now, I don't think that that's going to happen, but I do think that by March of 2023, we can all band together and have at least 100 members in there. My goal is 500 by the end of 2023. 500 people that are pursuing mere Catholicity. And again, it is free to join. Now, that being said, I do appreciate when you guys are able to give. The minimum requirement is $5 a month, which I know times are tough, but $5 is usually a manageable amount of money that people can support a ministry with. And so all I'm asking is that you consider either joining for free or consider giving $5 a month, because what you do with that $5 a month is not only are you enabled to be part of a community of like-minded Christians where you're able to ask questions, post content, have dialogue, engage with like-minded believers, but you're actively supporting the movement and the mission of this ministry. So when you see a new podcast every single week, you know you have a hand to play in that. You know that you're the one who's actually helping to move this thing forward. And I believe in this mission. I really do. And I would hope that the people who are also committed to Mere Catholicity, even if you don't have the same exact theology as me, if you're committed to this ecumenical unity that we're striving for, man, I would hope that you would want to support and be part of something like that. And so again, no pressure. Your prayers and joining for free are still very meaningful, but the channel doesn't function without financial help. And so I would very much appreciate if each one of you would prayerfully consider giving in 2023, just $5 a month, to support the work and the mission that I do here. All right. I think that's it. That's all I wanted to say this episode. I'll conclude with this. Starting next week, this is January, the first Saturday in January. I'm recording this a little bit earlier, so if I sound like I'm talking in the past, it's because I kind of am. But this is coming out the first Saturday of January. Next week, I have the other Paul coming on my channel to talk about Sola Scriptura. The week after that, I have a priest from the Anglican Communion coming on to talk about iconography within Anglicanism as well as Eucharistic sacrifice within Anglicanism. And then the week after that, I have another very special guest lined up. And so I really hope that you guys enjoy this content and are looking forward to seeing how this ministry grows and changes and matures. And as always, brothers and sisters, I am simply a man who loves Jesus, who decided to set up his camera one day and talk about him. And some people thought it was cool, and so I've continued to do it. And so, man, it's such a privilege. It's such a privilege to be able to talk about Jesus online and to have people tune in and listen and care. And so if you are one of the people that are listening right now, if you're one of the people that are watching right now, if you're one of the people that supports what I do by subscribing and liking and supporting on Locals, for example, thank you. Sincerely, thank you. I would not be able to do this without you. I would not be able to make videos, make podcasts, and enable it to have the reach that it does without the people that have supported me over the years. I would have never guessed when I started my TikTok account in 2019 and made a video and said, here's the gospel. And that video blew up and got 16,000 views. I would have never guessed that would have gotten me here where I am today. And I really do believe that part of why I am an Anglican, an ecumenist, is because of the fact that there was this overwhelming support for what I've been doing over the past couple of years. Yeah, it's really humbling. It really is humbling. I've made so many friends through ministry online, friends that I'm probably going to have for life. I've had so many conversations with people that I never thought I'd be able to have a conversation with. I've learned so much just engaging with people, talking to people in the comments sections, on Locals, all over the place. And so it is just a privilege, and my prayer is that as 2023 unfolds and unravels, that we would all grow to love the Lord a little bit more this year. And in loving Him, we would serve Him a little bit more this year by serving others in good deeds and kindness. And that our testimony this year would be a light for the nations, that they might see the truth of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And in seeing the truth, they might come to believe in the risen Son of God. I'm looking forward to this year. I hope you are too. I really appreciate you watching this or listening to it if you're listening. Don't forget to support on locals, $5 a month. Keeps this channel running. And I'll talk to you guys next week.